Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about another Cosmere controversy. And this controversy we're going to talk about is the Kaladin, Shallan, and Adolin love triangle. So it's apparently a huge topic of discussion within the fandom. I don't pay too much attention to ships and, relationships and romance and stuff. So a lot of it kind of flew past me. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. But I was doing a lot of reading on the Compromise and 17th Shard and like on Facebook groups and stuff. And it's like a whole thing. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. So as always, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And let's begin. So, in Oathbringer, it becomes explicitly obvious that there is essentially a love triangle between Adolin, Kaladin, and Shallan. And this kind of started more or less in, some people would argue it started in Way of Kings with the whole boot stealing thing. Like, a lot of people kind of seem to have interpreted that as flirtation. I didn't really. I thought it was just, her being a kid, being a brat, and being a little arrogant and stuff like that, and also learning from a con woman. So, like, she's, in that space or whatever, so I didn't think too much about it. But where I did start to really notice a connection between those two characters is in Words of Radiance. Specifically, of course, like everyone, sees, the obvious situation was when they were in the chasms. So that was when their relationship as, just two people getting to know each other really got some actual development. So while a lot of people see the result of their time in the chasms as like development of like a relationship, like romantic feelings, I always thought it was just like establishing that they're going to be really, really good, solid friends, because effectively what they were doing was trauma bonding. And I don't really think, at least in my personal opinion, I don't think trauma bonding is the best way to establish a relationship, especially when that trauma is the type of thing that can be kind of overcome and kind of gotten over. So it kind of, in my opinion, creates this like unhealthy codependency kind of thing. So when they both would kind of, start to take steps to better themselves, it eventually would cause friction between them because what they need from each other is not the same thing as it was, if that makes any sense. So basically from Words of Radiance, I was already not on board with Shallan and Kaladin being together. I wasn't seeing it happen at all. I wasn't seeing the, romance sparks or anything like that. But in Oathbringer, it becomes a little more clear. Because in Words of Radiance, I also didn't see it coming from Shallan at all. I saw a lot of, like, history realization and just kind of, she just, was Shallan. She kind of waffles and kind of floats through life a lot of, in a lot of ways. So I kind of really saw it as that. I didn't really see any evidence that she was, like, really developing an emotional attachment to Kaladin. Because, like, at least with Adolin, there's so many instances of her talking about how beautiful he is and, like, all of this kind of stuff. And her, just literally in her own head, like, musing about how attracted to him she is and stuff. And we don't really get that with Kaladin. We get a little bit of that in Oathbringer when she's, like, sketching him and thinking about stuff. It seems that, like, she wouldn't have been really into Kaladin in Words of Radiance. But in Oathbringer, when he kind of goes through that level of development, he hits and he becomes Captain Kaladin and becomes far more, of who he is. He gets to be, on the outside and everybody else acknowledges that kind of stuff. Like, she seemed to be more attracted to that, more so than, the angsty, broody, sad boy that we got to know in the beginning. And I specifically say Shallan is attracted to him because it seems like Shallan herself is attracted to him. So the way in which the actual situation was handled in Oathbringer, I think was very, very much a cop-out. Because the idea of her just saying, oh no, it was Vale that was into Kaladin. And, he's pretty and I'm an artist, so of course I want to draw him and that kind of thing. Like, that's such a cop-out. Like, and it feels like it's kind of on purpose because of, where the character is, where Shallan is. She's young, she's naive, she doesn't have a great relationship with honesty and everything. So it makes sense. I just kind of wish Brandon would have added a little bit more to it to kind of in a meta way kind of be like, to the audience, to the readers, be like, no, she really does like him. She's just kind of in self-denial, and as a result, she's lying to Adolin. So I kind of would have liked that, but granted, there's really nowhere to place it. It wouldn't have fit anywhere. But that's kind of where I sit in terms of the relationship. So when people kind of talk about the love triangle in Oathbringer, I don't really see it because I also don't see in Oathbringer Kaladin having, any explicit, emotional or even like sexual desire towards Shallan. Like, there's the storm she smiled anyway. Like, there's that, which could definitely have levels of implication of him, crushing on her a little bit. But I didn't really see it as that. At least it wasn't clear in the text. Maybe there was some subtext that I didn't pick up on. Maybe I'll pick up on it on this upcoming reread. I don't know, but I didn't really see it. So when there was all the conversations and stuff that started happening, especially towards the end of Oathbringer, when like it was explicitly said, and she was talking to Adolin and stuff about it, I'm in my head like, what? I was like, did I misread this whole situation? Because I was not seeing this happen at all. I was not picking up what they apparently were putting down, like, at all. And I thought it was kind of hilarious. But the entire idea, like, there are some people that were saying, like, just the classic nature of a love triangle, just the way it exists in romance books and stuff. Brandon didn't exactly do a good job with it in this one because a lot of, like, people say like love triangles are kind of about two different options, like that kind of thing, like what does this relationship mean for the person as opposed to this relationship kind of situation. And there's not a lot of that, like there's that's not clearly the way Brandon was going about writing it. I really think he was like uncommitted to the idea of a love triangle and just kind of had it in there. Because honestly, I think a lot of the love triangle comes down to like fandom speculation, apart from, the explicit conversation that does happen in it. I don't know. I never bought any of that kind of connection. But if there even was a connection, like a more clear connection between Shallan and Kaladin, I can understand it because effectively Shallan's relationship with Adolin is just random and out of nowhere. It's just an idea that Yasna had in Way of Kings, and they kind of keep going with it because she's a radiant and stuff. It just so happens that they mesh, their personalities mesh. It just so happens that they find each other really attractive. It's just, it's kind of a trope with Brandon at this point that, of course, the arranged marriages just so happen to work out in this perfect way, like Susebron and Ciri, and like that kind of thing. Like, so it's kind of just a trope at this point, but. So I think maybe I was just kind of used to that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't. I had no expectations for any love triangle. So even when there was evidence put forth explicitly, I just was not picking up on it. So yeah, I guess that's really all I got to say about the controversy of the love triangle. I personally didn't see the actual love triangle, but ultimately I think the way it ends up makes the most sense. I think Shallan and Adolin make so much more sense together because Adolin is very much more an established kind of person. He very much knows who he is, he knows what he wants, and he kind of just, well, more or less, like now he's kind of going through a level of development where he has to like question who he is in context of his recent deeds and in context of his father's deeds and stuff like that. So there's like more development that he's getting right now. But overall, like when those two came together, Shallan and Adolin, he was a far more established, solid person than she was. So the idea of, being in a relationship, you needing something from your partner needing something from you, it made total sense to me that him being so established as he was would be a great fit for Shallan, who was still figuring her stuff out, who had like a lot to learn, but it will also kind of help her stabilize, but also allow him to break out of some of his rigid nature of being a prince to a high prince, whatever. Like the very staunch kind of situation he was in before, in like a regular relationship kind of way, taking out all the radiant stuff and the end of the world level war and all that, if we ignore that stuff. So that's kind of how I saw it. So I guess I was on the Adolin Shallan ship from jump. So I never really entertained Kaladin and Shallan that much. Like, I really like the idea of what's going on now. The fact that they're, like, becoming very much a Three Musketeers situation. And very much, like, even beyond the nature of the marriage between Shallan and Adolin. Like, they're, of course, very, very close. But I think, like, the foundation of the relationship is this friendship. So, like, it feels very much like a throuple, but like a not relationship-y throuple, not polyamorous kind of thing. So, I don't know. I really like where they are now. And I love, love, love what Adolin did for Kaladin in Rhythm of War. Just the level of awesome friend that he is. He will always be one of my favorite characters for being so awesome as he was to Kaladin in Rhythm of War. So, yeah. Let me know in the comments down below. How do you feel about the love triangle? Do you agree with me that it was barely a love triangle? Or are you one of those, like, no, she should have ended up with Kaladin? Or, no, like, it makes sense the way it ended? Let me know about all that in the comments down below. As always, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in supporting me in another way, you can also check out the Patreon. Links down there below. And I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.